My main problem with him was they dropped this mixtape on 1017 and tried to like ride my wave. You know what I'm saying? Like he was an artist of mine and we get some kind of money together. So I just felt like, for an artist to drop their mixtape on 1017, which is my label, on the day that I drop all my label mates drop their mixtape on 1017. Why would you drop it if you ain't on 1017? And when I call you as my partner to ask you why you did, you say, oh, I didn't know you were dropping the mixtape.
Gucci Mane in this interview.
In this interview, Gucci shares his thoughts on how he feels. He believes this happened because of what seemed like a coincidence with the timing of their mixtape releases.
But me and you on the top of World Star, you with a freestyle and me with a video, but you say you're unaware that this mixtape gonna come, and I got a battle that says come out 1017. So it just made me lose all respect for him instantly.
He admitted that he lost all the respect he once had for Gotti.
I don't know if I'm more shocked that dude actually say my name in a song that's a diss record, or the reason why the people say he say my name.
After this, diss tracks followed, and Gotti didn't hold back in addressing the growing tension. There's a lot to unpack here, so let's break it down. Back in the early 2000s, hip-hop had a very different vibe compared to today. Artists like Yo Gotti and Gucci Mane were just starting to make a name for themselves. They weren't the big stars we know now, but were raw and deeply connected to the streets. Both were building their music careers while keeping their street reputations strong. Gucci, coming up in Atlanta, earned the nickname Ice Cream Man of Zone 6. And one of the wildest moments that cemented his tough guy image happened during his beef with young Jeezy, also known as the Snowman.
It was just something that had took over that it was just an undeniable smash at the time, so.
And then after that, though, it seemed like the two of them were really beefing, though.
Yeah,
it escalated.
On May 10, 2005, things took a serious turn for Gucci Mane, whose real name is Radrick Davis. He was hanging out with a female friend at her apartment when 5 masked men broke in, armed with tape, a gun, and brass knuckles. Reports say they threatened to shoot Gucci, punched him in the face, and pistol-whipped his friend. Witnesses heard a fight and then gunshots. The intruders fled, with one asking, "Are you hit?" as they ran. A few days later, one of the men, identified as Henry Lee Clark III, also known as Pookie Lock, was found dead near a middle school. It was later revealed that Pookie Lock had ties to young Jeezy, shedding light on a bigger feud. Gucci avoided charges by claiming self-defense and later dropped the diss track The Truth, calling out Jeezy with lines like, "A $10,000 bounty put on my neck, hope you didn't pay him, 'cause they didn't have no success."
$10,000 bounty put on my neck. I hope you didn't pay them because they didn't have.
Gucci fired back with the line, "Go dig your partner up, Betty can't say a word, and if you're looking for me, I'll be in Zone 6.
Hey, go dig your partner up, Betty can't say shit. And if you're looking for the kid, I'll be in Zone.
Meanwhile, Yo Gotti was making a name for himself in Memphis, with a background rooted in hustling long before he became a well-known artist.
Matter of fact, I won my first $500 in that hallway right there. And my mama called me with some dope in that hallway when I was about 12. Man, that was a thing. But look.
Like Gucci, Yo Gotti wasn't new to street drama. In 2010, during Thanksgiving weekend, a fight outside the Level 2 nightclub in Memphis turned into a shootout, leaving 6 people injured. Court records show the conflict started with an argument between Yo Gotti, also known as Mario Mims, and Lance OG Boo Dirty Taylor. Both Gotti and Boo Dirty were arrested, but since no witnesses came forward and there was no strong evidence, the charges were eventually dropped.
Okay, then both you and Yo Gotti got arrested over that. They dropped the charges?
Yeah, because then nobody come forward and press charges. No, now either side can't press charges.
Gucci and Gotti had strong street connections, which probably explains why they got along so well at first. They teamed up and made hit after hit together, with tracks like M-Money, Colors, featuring Jules Santana, Ridiculous, and Bricks, earning big numbers in the industry. It wasn't just singles either. They released collaborative projects like The Definition of a G&G and SW mixtapes. However, their chemistry didn't last, and a beef started brewing between them, eventually ending their partnership both as rappers and in the streets. The turning point came on October 17, 2012, when Gucci was preparing to drop his mixtape, a major move for him and his 1017 brand. That date, 10/17, meant more than just a release day. It was part of Gucci's identity and the foundation of his label. However, on the same day, Yo Gotti decided to release the next installment of his Coke music series, CM7 The World Is Yours. Gotti claimed he didn't know they were both dropping on the same day. When he found out, he thought it was a chance for them to win together, so he reached out to Gucci. But Gucci never responded.
It came down to me and homie were dropping on the same date. We didn't know it. I didn't know in the beginning. I found out probably a day or so later.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But once I found out, because he's supposed to be my homeboy, so I hit him. You know what I mean? I hit him to chop it up back there. I ain't, he ain't hit me back. He ain't answer. So I'm thinking like, maybe he got a different number. You know how they be. Change numbers all the time.
Right.
At first, Gotti brushed it off, thinking it wasn't a big deal. He tried reaching out to Gucci again, but still got no response. Things changed when Gucci posted something online that made Gotti realize there was an issue. So Gotti called Gucci directly to try to clear the air.
Last minute, we in the lab, we heard about the tweet. When we heard about the tweet, I immediately hit his phone. Like, what's up, homie, you good? You know what I'm saying? And, we chopped it up.
They talked, but Gucci wasn't really bothered by the release date issue. He was more upset about Gotti working with his rivals, T.I and Jeezy, on the I Got That Sack remix.
He didn't even speak about what he tweeted. He was like, oh man, you put Jeezy and Tip on the Rex remix. Jeezy tried to I was like, what?
After some back and forth, Gotti thought everything was okay and they would get back to business. To him, it was a chance to celebrate since they were both dropping music, and it could have been a win for both of them. But for Gucci, it wasn't that simple. He saw Gotti's move as disrespectful, feeling like Gotti was trying to ride the wave of 1017, which was a big part of Gucci's identity. In some of his writing, Gotti say, out of respect, Gotti changed his release date to 1018, but by then, the damage was already done.
It came down to me and homie were dropping on the same date. We didn't know it. I didn't know in the beginning. I found out probably a day or so later.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But once I found out, because he's supposed to be my homeboy.
Gucci dropped his tape on 1017, and Gotti followed with his on 1018. But by then, their friendship was already falling apart. Not long after, Gucci made things worse by releasing a diss track aimed at several rivals, including Jeezy and T.I, and took a shot at Gotti with the line, I used to F with Gotti until he turned into a buster.
Both me and you on the top of World Star, you with a freestyle and me with a video, but you say you're unaware that this mixtape gonna come, and I got a battle that says come out 1017. So it just made me lose all respect for him instantly.
Publicly, they both made their feelings clear. Gucci said he lost respect for Gotti, while Gotti expressed disappointment in how Gucci handled the situation. Looking at it from the outside, it's easy to see both sides. From Gotti's perspective, Gucci was his homie, so why wouldn't they drop on the same day and make a moment out of it? But from Gucci's side, it felt personal, especially since Gotti claimed he didn't know about 1017's release, even though Gucci had been promoting it all year. For Gucci, it probably felt like a betrayal, whether it was intentional or not. Gotti explained his side, saying he doesn't focus on social media or what other rappers are doing, he's focused on his own music.
It's a funny situation, because first of all, I do my music and I don't keep up with what other people doing.
Soon after, Gucci dropped a diss track, and Gotti responded with his own Have Mercy. Gotti continued to say that in the end, he was just disappointed in Gucci, whom he had considered a friend. Gotti also heard that Gucci had already recorded a diss track towards him. He said, I'm more disappointed than anything because you mentioned a diss record. I heard about it last night. I'm more disappointed in him because I looked at him differently. What I thought of him isn't how he's acting now. The Gucci I always knew, I thought he was a stand-up, street-top dude, and street dudes don't handle business like that. By that point, their friendship was over. But Gucci had his own struggles. He was dealing with an addiction to lean, which his now wife, Keisha K.E.R., later confirmed was a challenge for him during that time.
It's hard to get off lean.
Because they're constipated.
Mm-hmm.
They don't go to the bathroom.
Yeah, you talk about that in the book, yeah.
Yeah, so all of that was constipation, 40 pounds, because he went in like 290.
While battling his demons, Gucci had a complete breakdown and took to Twitter to air everyone out. Nobody was safe. He came for Nicki Minaj, Drake, his former artist Waka Flocka, and of course, Yo Gotti. Gotti didn't get involved directly, but later revealed something that might have been the real cause of the beef. Before the mixtape release drama even started, Gotti had hooked up with Gucci's now wife, Keisha K.E.R., and as the streets always say, messing with someone's girl usually leads to trouble. This all happened while Gucci was locked up, which many believed was during his one-year stint for violating parole. Gotti brushed it off, saying he didn't know Gucci was serious about Keisha and thought Gucci would understand how things go in their world. Everything came to a head one night at a club in Atlanta. Gotti was inside doing his thing when word got back that Gucci and his whole squad had rolled up deep. Some say it turned into a gunfight in the parking lot, while others say it was just fists and bottles flying. What we do know is that when the smoke cleared, the club looked like it had been hit by a hurricane. And both sides knew this beef was no longer just about music. After that night, the whole South had to pick sides. You couldn't book both of them in the same state, let alone the same city. Features got canceled, songs got shelved. It was real. But that club incident was just the start. What happened next showed how serious Gucci was about the beef. In a 2012 interview with DJ Drama on Shade 45, Gucci didn't hide how he was moving. He said, "I'm going to see him and his family," making threats that weren't just threats, but promises. Gucci's troubles didn't end there. In late 2013, he was arrested again and faced serious charges. 2 counts of possession of a firearm by a felon after police found guns on him in 2 separate incidents just days apart. He was looking at 20 years in prison, but in a way, it turned out to be a blessing. Being locked up forced Gucci to slow down and deal with his issues. When he got out, he was a changed man, clean, focused, and ready to take over. He became a father, reconnected with Keisha, and leveled up to become the boss of one of the hottest label rosters in the game.
Now you have to choose. And I felt we prayed so much and asked God to help us. And we feel like God answered all our prayers, and your return favor is to change.
Gotti has also been leveling up, building a powerful label, and making moves that have secured his place in the game. He's put together a roster that's been dominating both the charts and the streets, showing he's just as much of a boss as anyone in the industry. It's incredible to see how far both of them have come, considering where they started, grinding in the streets, turning that hustle into music, and then using their music to build entire empires. Even though their beef seemed to end their collaboration era, you can't help but hope that one day they'll let go of the past. Time and success have a way of making old drama feel less important, especially when both sides have already found success in their own way. Imagine if they could sit down, sort out whatever's still bothering them, and hit the studio together again. They had undeniable chemistry back in the day, and the tracks they made were real anthems. Raw, unfiltered, and full of that energy that made people connect with their stories. If they ever got back on the same page, it would be easy to see them dropping something that brings back that same vibe, maybe with a new twist that shows how far they've come since then. The game is always better when real ones like Gucci and Gotti find a way to coexist and create, especially with the influence they have now. They're both at the top of their lanes, but it would be wild to see them come together again, not just as a nod to the past, but as a statement of growth, showing how even the hardest beefs don't have to last forever. Before the fame and before the beef, Gotti and Gucci were just 2 young hustlers trying to make it out of the trap. Yo Gotti, born Mario Mims, came up in the Ridgecrest Apartments in North Memphis. And for him, life there wasn't just hard. It was a daily struggle for survival.
Many days road raps, man. Man, thinking of wishing I be in a position right now, you know what I'm saying? Wishing to go far and succeed in his rap.
Growing up in Ridgecrest Apartments, Yo Gotti was born into the game. His family was deep into hustling, with his mom and aunties running corner stores that were really fronts for other activities. In a 2017 interview with The Breakfast Club, Gotti admitted, "I ain't never seen nothing legal growing up. Everybody I knew was in the streets." By the age of 10, he was already helping count money for his family's operations, and his uncle had him working in their corner store, learning the business while observing the streets. What most people don't know is that before he was Yo Gotti, he was a straight-A student. He was good at math and said in a 2012 interview with XXL, "While you counting money early, them numbers come natural." At 14, Gotti dropped out of school to hustle full-time, but also spent time in North Memphis studios, watching legends like 3-6 Mafia and 8 Ball and MJG build their empires. DJ Sound, a Memphis legend, said that young Gotti would sit in the studio for hours, learning how they moved in music and business. Gotti started rapping under the name Lil Yo, and when he was just 15, he dropped his first tape, Youngstas on a Come Up. He pressed 1,000 copies and sold them all in a week. What's wild is that he used the money from those tapes to buy more product for the streets, funding both his rap career and his hustle. As he told DJ Vlad in 2016, "I was using the rap money to fund the streets and the street money to fund the rap."
Get money, move to a better place, move your people out the hood, get many you can take with you, and like that's the goal to me.
Yo Gotti was building his name in Memphis, a city already famous for its rap scene. 3-6 Mafia had put Memphis on the map, and Gotti was studying their moves while making his own path in the music world. He was grinding between the streets and the studio, learning from those who came before him. At the same time, in East Atlanta, Radric Davis, better known as Gucci Mane, was starting his own rise to fame. East Atlanta, Zone 6, was a different kind of battleground, and Gucci was in the thick of it. He wrote in his autobiography that his father was a hustler who was always on the move between Detroit and Alabama, while his mom was a school teacher trying to keep him on the right track. But the streets had a pull that was hard to ignore. What many people don't know about Gucci is that he was a smart kid. In elementary school, he was reading at a high school level, and his teachers thought he might be gifted. But by middle school, he was already hustling, carrying a gun to school by 8th grade. Gucci's first hustle wasn't even drugs, it was card games. At just 15, he was running card games in his grandma's basement and making hundreds a week. His brother, Duke, who rarely speaks to the press, told Complex in 2012 that Gucci was always the smartest hustler in the room. He wasn't trying to be the biggest, just the smartest. Around 1997, Gucci started getting serious about music, spending time at Studio 44 in Atlanta, learning from the people who worked with Outkast. Gucci would pay for studio time with loose change and hustle money into habit forming. But music hustles fell by the wayside in 2001, pressing CDs and selling them out of his car. La Flare. He was moving between Atlanta and Birmingham, Alabama, building connections and trying to get his music heard. This was around the same time that Gotti was making waves with his From D-Do Game to Da Rap Game series. Their paths first crossed around 2002 at a show in Alabama. Back then, they were both performing for small crowds, sometimes for just a few $100, but they clicked right away, recognizing the same hunger in each other. By 2004, both Gotti and Gucci were blowing up in their cities, Gotti in Memphis and Gucci in Atlanta. They started performing together, featuring on each other's tapes, and building a connection between Memphis and Atlanta. DJ Scream, who worked with both of them, said in a 2015 interview that Gucci and Gotti were like brothers back then, spending hours together in the studio. They came from similar backgrounds and both wanted to put their cities on the map. Their friendship worked because they had mutual respect for each other. In a 2006 interview, Gotti talked about how much he admired Gucci's work ethic, saying Gucci was always in the studio. Meanwhile, Gucci was telling everyone how Gotti showed him the Memphis blueprint for independent success. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and stay informed. Stay tuned for more updates, and let's keep our news accurate.